Welcome back to Awaken the Game. My name is Andreas. Today we're going to be tuning in with Atlantis. I have been in connection with this aspect of my soul being for quite a while, but over the last 2 months I've had a lot stronger energy coming through, able to meet the aspect of me that was in an Atlantean lifetime. Her name is Mahlia, and I have been in channel with her, and she's been nudging me on the shoulder that she wants to come through and discuss how Atlantis is in relation to everything that we've seen since November 2024. You know, and even beyond the US. One of my clients today was telling me about some very interesting and huge shifts through France, through South Korea. Things are moving quite quickly now. I'm curious to see what the Atlantean perspective is on 2025 timeline for us and how it all relates. Let's see what Mahlia wants to say. We are the Galactic Council of Nine. We're just coming in to support Andreas. We think it is absolutely time to be bringing in Mahlia Khara, the Atlantean soul aspect that is intertwined with the incarnation that you see in front of you on the screen, Andreas. It is normal for you and not for all souls on the earth, but it is normal for souls on the earth, including Starseed and lightworker souls, to have multiple soul incarnations on the earth plane, many of which are Atlantean or Lemurian as another ancient civilization race in the not too distant past. We are handing over now because there isn't really much for us to say. We just wanted to come in and welcome you all into today's channel, a familiar face or a familiar energy, if we understand that Mahlia has not made herself known to you yet, but Andreas has been in consultation with her for the last few months, and they have agreed that now is the correct time to bring her through. So we are just letting Mahlia come in, and the way that this happens is slightly different because now Andreas is connecting into another timeline that is of the earth, on the earth, but in a different time and space. We are saying and showing Andreas that Mahlia isn't a separate entity to him, that they are the same soul being that has just incarnated into different vessels and different personalities, if you will. So it's slightly different because what Andreas is doing is he's tuning in to that aspect of him to bring it forth. He's not tuning out. He's tuning in. My name is Mahlia. Andreas is just calibrating to my frequency. Give it some time, Andreas. For we haven't come through in this way before. Allow it to be easeful and plentiful. And I send the water dragons around you now. Ha! There's a lot of love. I'm feeling so much love from her. I don't go away. I'm still here and I can feel so much love from her. And her accent is different, which is weird for me to accept and to channel. And I'm like, what accent is that? American? What are you, American? Like, I don't know what the accent is, but Nevertheless, that she's coming through with that twang in the voice. So I'm just calibrating to that as well. It's time for you to let go, Andreas, and to let me in, is what she's saying. Or to let me come through. And I can feel that coming up my spine. There's water moving up my spine, energetically, my spine. Amaleo mama maeta ewe hai amalea ewe amalea eto 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 oh amalea eto amalea eto eto I'm lay under your I'm lay I'm lay I'm lay thank you. Thank you. My name is Mahlia Khara. I'm very excited to be with all of you who come in for this transmission that my counterpart, is how I will refer to him, Andreas, likes to broadcast. And as he has said, he is with me and I am with him. And we are in a joint, congruent agreement that we will come through together in this way to share more about the Atlantean timeline. It is my intention, as I take up space in these messages that Andreas chooses to share with you, that I will talk about the Atlantean history, the Atlantean perspective, what happened to Atlantis, all of these questions. And I understand that my approach or my take is mine and from my perspective as an Atlantean soul being. However, I also know that there are questions around what is taking place on the Earth plane at this timeline right now. And I would like and am happy to share the perspective I take from my Atlantean perspective and how it relates to the Atlantean starseeds. If you are an Atlantean starseed or an Atlantean being, or you feel a connection to Atlantis, then I encourage you to run this through your own vessel, but to run it through the soul heart that is you. And I'm showing Andreas this as a diamond heart with water. Andreas resists me saying the word water because he knows of the Australian. He knows of the way that people make fun of Australians saying water, and he wants me to say water, and I'm trying, and he's playing with me right now, trying to say water as in an Australian accent, and yet he's struggling to say water in an Australian accent when he tunes in from my frequency. Because I can't say it in that way. But when he tunes into his frequency, he can say water, water, in the right way. I can say water just fine, is what I was trying to say. But what I'm noticing is that when I'm tuned into her frequency, I can't say water the same way. It's like it's there, but it doesn't escape the mouth properly. It's like I have to tune out of that and in order to convey water. Okay, I'm just going back. Yeah. Phenomenon. Interesting phenomenon. Would you not agree, Andreas? And I enjoy the fun of that. I enjoy the play of that. I enjoy that. That is the lightheartedness of what is otherwise a phantasmagoria. That is a phenomenon, as you would say. That is supernatural, as you might say, and yet also very ordinary from the perspective you will all be having as you continue to move forward in your ascension process. And I'm very, very excited to be talking to you about the ascension process from the Atlantean starseed perspective. Now, what I want to share with you, and Andreas doesn't know what I'm going to share with you, so he's just sitting watching like an innocent child down here going, what's going on? So he's very excited, but also very apprehensive for what I have to say because he doesn't know what I'm going to have to say. Andreas, there's nothing you need to worry about. 2025 is a tremendous year for you all as you experience a quickening, as you experience a exacerbation of what is no longer serving you, and it is all going to come through very rapidly, and it's already started, and it's going to keep going. And I know that Andreas mentioned a slowdown, which I won't speak to today, but that is after the fact. That is after the fact of all of the cacophony that I want to say is coming your way. There's a lot of cacophony coming your way. A lot. There's a lot that's going to be processed. Andreas was having a conversation with one of his clients earlier today, and what came through that discussion with that client was that with even what is going on now, many people are saying, how could this be happening? Or how could they do that? How could they do that? How could they do that? That's a very commonly uttered phrase at the moment. And what came through that discussion, I want to relay again, because I believe that that very truly encapsulates the energy of what is coming in the first part of 2025, which is how could they do that? Many people will be very surprised, concerned, confused, trying to put it together, going, what is going on? But a big question that will be continually asked out to the people around you will be, how could they do that? The disbelief, the disturbed nature of this is coming so that it can be resolved enough so that you may slow down, so that you may go inside and inside your being. Not inside your doors, inside your being. Yes. We of the Atlantean souls, which are ultimately your souls. There are so many Atlantean souls here. So many. The tie to the Atlantean timeline is far, far more important than you would know, because the timeline that you find yourself in now, in very many ways, is remedying the Atlantean timeline. It is remedying the downfall of Atlantis. That Atlantis, you are doing what we could not do. You are doing what Atlantis did not do. You will rise when Atlantis fell. That is what I'm trying to say. And many of you, like Andreas, have come back now because you were an Atlantean soul that experienced that devastation and that destruction of that categorically, incomprehensibly beautiful place that was lost, that befell. You are going to be righting those wrongs. So all of the Atlantean souls that have a karmic tie to Atlantis, you have come in here because you know that this is the lifetime that you resolve that you do ascend, that you don't befall to the same state that we experienced. That is a great gift to be able to to be able to know that, to be able to experience that in your being, to be able to experience that in your being is such a tremendous celebration for the soul, because on a soul level where me and Andreas culminate and are no longer two separate beings, but rather one being with no accent, no body. We are simply just in the soul expression, lightness. We are light. That's what you all are, is light. When you are in that place, you already know that this has taken place. You already know that what happened to Atlantis, the befalling of Atlantis, will be rectified and will not be repeated here. And yet, that is not the same as incarnating into a physical vessel, i.e. a body, and experiencing it incarnated onto the same planet that you were incarnated in as an Atlantean soul, yes? So when you're an Atlantean soul, and now you're an earth-based human, you are in the physical body, and by being in the physical body, you are able to experience the fullness of that. And your soul wants that. I think that's one thing that gets overlooked a lot, is that the soul wants that experience. The soul wants to experience that, just as you might watch a movie, because reading about the movie or being told about the movie is not the same as actually experiencing the movie. And watching the movie is not the same as actually being the person who is actually experiencing that. As if the movie was real and you were experiencing that in real life, not on a screen. That would be very different to just watching the movie, which is very different to just hearing about the movie. You see what I'm saying? These levels of experience that your soul chooses to come into. And that's why you're here. Because those Atlantean souls, if you were here and you feel like you're an Atlantean soul, you're here to experience that. You're here to experience the renaissance, the regeneration, the renewal. You are here to experience the flourishing. You are here to experience the reclamation of what was lost in that lifetime. And I am so freed by this. I feel so excited and freed. I feel so ready and waiting. And I'm so proud of Andreas, to be partnered with Andreas, to be able to experience this. I want to explain to you a little bit more about who I was and what I looked like in Atlantis, because I know that I will be coming through more and more and more with Andreas and his other two predominant teams, the Angelic Realm team and his guidance team, the Galactic Council of Nine. But in this triad, you have a beautiful team, but I have not been introduced, and I want to take that time, if it's okay with Andreas, to introduce myself. My name is Mahlia Khara, and I was a priestess in Atlantis, and that is not status. Because in Atlantis, most people were of some form of spiritual priestliness. They were in some form of spiritual role, and there was not less of a hierarchy in that. It wasn't that I was above others by being in a priestess role, but I was a water temple priestess. And what I worked with was the water. I worked with the water a lot, which in Atlantis was common, because water is a common building block of our creation. We would create buildings out of water and crystal. So a lot of our buildings were very luminescent, because they were predominantly composed of crystal and water. That's what actually created the structures of our physical city. So our city had an almost a reflective quality that reflected the sky. So it often looked very blue in Atlantis because of this. But it is not that we were submerged. It is not that our city was submerged when we were there. Of course, we know what befell Atlantis, and that it eventually did become inundated with water. But that is actually not the fullness of Atlantis, was that it was... water was an inherent part of the architecture, is what I would like to say. It was an inherent part of the architecture and the crystalline nature of the buildings. And so being a water priestess was a very, very beautiful role that I'm so glad that I held. And what I would be responsible for was predominantly purifying the water. So I would go into and purify, work with the water and talk to the water and be in communion with the water so that the city would have pure water. We worked with the water. It's not the same as what I'm showing Andreas is the Paris Olympics, where you had to clean the water in order to make it even able to swim in it. It wasn't that. It was that we would take the water, which was already clean and pure, and we would then infuse it with more light, more love, and more intentionality. We would infuse the water with our intention, and that water would then shape itself into the way we needed it to be so that we could create what we wish to create in our crystalline building structure. And water is inherently powerful. You can program water, and I'm sure many of you watching understand that you can program water. You can program water with your thoughts alone. If I grab this glass and I tap it 3 times and I say, now this water is full of light, now this water is full of love, and this water aids me, then so it be. Then so it be, because water is so inherently wanting. Because I communicated with water, I can communicate with this water, and I can tell you that this water loves you. This water wants you to program it. It is not that you are doing something, you're not being a witch to try and do that. The water wants you to program with it, because this is the blood of the earth. This is the life force in the earth. This is the life force in you, your human body, yes? This is in the air that you breathe. This is everything. And you can work with the water. It is the easiest thing to manifest. I know I feel so excited about it. Andreas is going, why are you so excited about manifesting? Because I'm kind of over it. I'm kind of overseeing all the things about manifesting. And yet I am so excited because the fact that you're at this place where manifesting is so spoken about that you could become bored of manifesting means that you are ready to take that in to your lessons now. You're ready to be that sort of creator, because to manifest means you take responsibility. You take responsibility of your creation and what you desire and what you are creating, and you believe in it. So when I program this water now and I drink this water, I know it. I know that it has this loving light healing potential because I programmed it as such. How could it be any other way? And when you start to get better at this with the water, you'll find you will be able to create through water. Through water, through air. This is the easiest things to create through. It is much easier to create and manifest through water than it is to create and manifest through stone. And that is why you build these heavy buildings, and your buildings look so dark. That's the only way I can describe your buildings, is very dark. They're very dark buildings, and you create your little window holes so that you have light coming in to remind you of the light that you are. And yet a lot of your buildings are so dark and they're so heavy. Yeah, they're so heavy. And the amount of labor that it takes to actually work with this material, it's a very laborious material to work with. When you work with crystalline water, which you'll be doing once you've moved through this solar cycle, this solar burst period, when you have gone through that crescendoing, that shake-up of your soul, which I know has already been spoken to many times by Andreas. Once you've gone through that, you will be able to program this water and create with this water, and you'll be able to do it in a way that does not feel forced, that does not feel like you have to try and make it happen, because it will just be. You will just know that you can do it, so you do. And that's how it works. But you can already start. And I would encourage you to start. Andreas was just giving me, how would you say, a tease. Andreas was teasing me because he was saying, oh, it's such a cliche for an Atlantean being to start talking about water. And yet I would say, well, the cliche exists for a reason, because we were masters of water. And if anyone was going to tell you about water, it would be me. It would be the priestess, would it not be? I died when I was 27 years old, in your time frames. And that was due to the downfall of our civilization. I was alive, like most of the Atlantean souls who are here now, they were alive during that downfall. That is, again, why you're here. And I died when I was 27. and I died because and this is dramatic, it's a bit graphic, my head was removed, was cut. It was an accident. It happened when it all came crumbling down, when the city came crumbling down, the water came in, the city started to crash around us, and as that all got destroyed around us, a piece of rope, I'm showing Andreas like a piece of rope is the best thing that I can show him to match what happened. A piece of rope, but it was moving really fast and it was sharp. It sliced through, and it sliced through, and in that way, my life was ended. And I don't have any sadness about that. You know, I'm in peace with that, and I understand and accept this because I have the higher perspective that that was just one body. You know, it was a beautiful body. I was a young 27-year-old woman. I had long blonde hair, very, very long, down to about here, and it was very flowing, you might say, beach-like hair. And I'm just showing this to paint a picture of what the Atlantean people look like. And we look like you. We just looked like you. Our eyes were generally lighter. We generally had more of a white or green or a blue light coming through our eyes. There was more spark because we were more connected to life force. We were more connected to Gaia, to the earth. And so that came through. Most of our eyes were very light, and some were so light and white that you might find that a bit intimidating or a bit scary because they were not dark eyes. Most people did not have dark eyes. Some did, but most did not. And they were very light, very white. And for the most part, otherwise, our bodies were the same. We were slightly taller, and our skin was a little bit more, how would you say, a little bit more iridescent, but also a little bit more smooth, or we had less body hair. In fact, body hair was very uncommon in Atlantis. Body hair wasn't truly that common at all. In fact, I'm trying to recall a single person that I knew in that lifetime that had body hair, and I can almost say that there was no body hair really on our bodies. We were quite hairless on our bodies. Our bodies had a bit more of a sweetness to the aroma of the body. It was more of a sweetness. There was more sourness in the carbon-based body that you're currently experiencing. Andreas is trying to understand what I'm showing about the quality of the skin. What he's seeing is the slimy, but it wasn't slimy. It was just that there was a bit more moisture in the skin. It was a bit more supple. It was a bit more smoother. I'm showing him like if you were to moisturize very well, that's how the skin was like. It was like that. Yes, more moisture, you could say, in the skin. And what I'm showing to Andreas is that he's inquiring about age and how long we lived, but we lived for quite a while, quite a long time, 540 years perhaps, or even longer than that, or less than that. But you know, my life ended at 27 years old, which is very young for an Atlantean soul. However, you'd be surprised at how little time was spent. Many of the Atlantean souls only spend 50, 60, 70 years in their physical body, and then they chose to leave because they didn't need to stay. And some chose to stay for hundreds and hundreds of years. So there was more of an intentionality around it, and there was no fear around the age because there was more free will involved in actually coming and entering and leaving the body at free will choice. But many souls chose to only live within that sort of 50 to 60 year mark would be quite, I would say, an average for people to experience Atlantis and then to move into a different lifetime or into a different, stay in the Atlantean lifetime, but into a different body, a different vessel, perhaps in a different timeline within the Atlantean cohort of time. So that's all I care to share around the context. But you know, I'm very open. I'm very open and aware that there may be questions that you have around the Atlantean peoples, the Atlantean place, the Atlantis, and I am open to those questions coming in, and I will try my best to relay that through Andreas to you. From my perspective, I know that I was only there 27 years, but I did see, and I experienced Atlantis Well, that was my only Atlantean lifetime, if you're wondering. That was my only Atlantean lifetime. I came from the stars. Andreas is coming from the same place. He comes from the stars, and he chose to have an Atlantean lifetime and to bring what he knew about working with the elements and the water into that lifetime, to experience that in Atlantis. He also chose to experience the downfall of Atlantis as part of his soul contract. He chose to experience the downfall, and now he's here to experience the opposite of that, the ascension, as many of you are. I want to close this out by just speaking slowly and a little bit more towards 2025. There is a tremendous ability for you to open your hearts bigger than they've ever been in 2025. But that opportunity is equally easy to close those hearts and to be fearful because of all the changes that are coming through. I think you might find that what you've experienced in November of 2024 in the US was a really great example of that. That both realities can come through for many different people, that some can have a tremendous heart opening and others can have a tremendous heart closing. And there are going to be many, many more of those experiences in all different countries throughout your planet. And you'll be aware of only some, not all of them. But one thing I want to share with you is that it is up to you. It is going to be up to you to decide and to choose to open the heart or to close the heart, to choose the fear path. Or do you want to choose the fear path, or do you want to choose the path that is going to be more enlivening to you? Andreas has had a similar message coming through from him and his own team, but from my perspective, there is no better or worse path. Both of those are equally valid to you and your choice as a human being. And my question to you as a creator being is, what do you wish to experience over this next year? Because if you choose to respond to all of these things by closing your heart off, by saying, how could they do that? And because they've done that, I'm going to shun that. I'm going to close that off. I'm going to turn my back. I'm going to close my heart. I'm going to keep down and keep my head down. If you choose that, it's going to be very struggle. It's going to feel very long. I will categorically tell you, your year is going to feel very, very long and hard and painful. And given all of the same circumstances, you can choose to see this as an opening, as change coming through, as things that are no longer serving you, to leave, to open, to grow. I'm showing Andreas, when a seed wants to crack through the ground must crack to allow the seed to grow. And if the ground doesn't crack, because I want to hold on to what I know, I want to hold on to the familiar safety, the stability of the ground as it is, and I can't let that ground crack because the shakiness of that is going to destabilize me. If I choose to be that's the hard part. If I choose to see that and say the ground is cracking but something's coming through, oh wait, I think I've only got an inkling that there's something coming through, but that inkling, that little sprout becomes more and it becomes more, and that becomes the tree. But the ground must crack. And 2025 and 2025 will crack the ground more. It has already begun. This isn't new to you. It has already begun, but it is going to crack a lot more in 2025. And I would say to you, which one are you going to choose? And who are you going to be? Who are you going to be next year? Who will you choose to be? Who will you surround yourself with? What ideologies will you decide to take on? What media will you decide to watch? How will you decide to fill the time? 2025 doesn't happen to you, it happens through you, as all things do. And I would say to you that you, beloved creator being, you starseed, you incomprehensibly, unfathomably large, light-filled soul that is here because you are the strongest, you are the most daring, you are the most courageous to be here right now at this time. That's why I'm so excited. That's why I'm so excited to be here through Andreas. You get to choose, and you get to create that. But your power is so strong that you can create a really bad time if you choose to. Equally, you can create a really great time if you choose to. So what do you choose? I will echo what Andreas has said. What will you choose? I think that's all for today. I welcome your questions and I'm glad to be here. Thank you again, Andreas, for having me in your time. And I look forward to coming back in future transmissions. But for now, I will return. I'm not really going anywhere. It's just that Andreas is tuning out of that and he's tuning back into his own essence, his own vessel. All right, a longer one today. Thanks for bearing with me. I had a lot of fun today and it was really great to play with Mahlia. Share with me in the comments about how you received Mahlia's energy. How do you feel about her coming in? I'm so happy to have that presence here in our beautiful channel. So I will be back in the next week or so with another update. Until then, I like to support spiritual work and spiritual messaging going through the algorithm. If you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe to me to receive updates every week. I love you all so much and I will see you in the next one.